With the release of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's first DLC, the Teal Mask, we gained access to an additional 100 Pokemon, previously unobtainable or transferable to the base game. I've been playing Pokemon pretty religiously since Gen 3, except for Gen 4, we don't really talk about that. So as soon as Pokemon Home compatibility came out for Scarlet and Violet, and with every update to said compatibility, I've been moving new Pokemon into it, just to see what they look like. Having all these transfer-only Pokemon sitting in my decks cut down the Kitakami decks from the new obtainable Pokemon to Pokemon that were only brand new to the Gen 9 games. So naturally, when the DLC released, I only had one question. How easily can I catch every new Pokemon added and create a Teal Mask living dex? This video will avoid any major story spoilers, but aside from that, it's obviously going to be covering every single new Pokemon in the DLC, so with that warning out of the way, the challenge can begin. My first steps in the Kitakami region are shortly followed by my first catch, Poochyena. Pretty fitting considering my first game was Emerald, and I've always had a soft spot for this dog. And like a dog with ADHD, I immediately turned my attention to catching a Yanma, Wooper, and Spinarak. Now Johto Wooper technically shouldn't count, but it wasn't in my box when the DLC came out, so it counts as a register. Technicalities aside, I can cross off Sawaddle, a kinda underrated design, I love the little hood. Cutiefly, I still have an unfinished Gen 7 shiny hunt this thing from when I was like 16. And the Certified Hood Classic Corphish. I get too close to the town and end up having to do some story stuff, meeting a member of the Carmine family. I wonder what type of horrible fate is awaiting her with that name. Well, she ends up making fun of me for a misclick, so I send out my shiny creature whose very existence is a paradox that she can't even comprehend, and destroy her entire team. Better than getting sniped or eaten by stomach bugs inside of a large worm, but I made it a close third horrible fate. After asserting my dominance, our hosts fear for Carmine's safety and pair me up with her socially inept brother. But we aren't here for story, we're here for catching our bundled and sold pocket monsters, so let's get back to that action. Oh my god, this beautiful specimen. This is like actually the best Pokemon game ever. I would literally fight anything barehanded to impress you. Just west of Musui Town, I can catch Bellsprout and Ekans, while Poochyena evolves into Mightyena. I love the design, it's just so bad in battle. Then, catching a Centric gives me enough XP for Spinarak to evolve on Ariados, and the following capture of some extras, Yanma evolves on Yanmega. Along my journey, I had to take care of some story stuff and flex on the weird kid with my dope dragon bike. And said dope dragon bike immediately takes me to one of the few new Pokemon, Poltergeist, who immediately gets overshadowed by this Gen 3 beauty, C-Dot. Furt is quickly thrown in the box with it, and Cutiefly evolves into Ribombee just before I stumble into the cave of Geodude. I add one to my collection and find the always adorable Vulpix. I honestly prefer the one from Alola, but the Kanto Ninetales shiny is just so much better. Climbing some rocks, Swinub is caught and story stuff takes me to the top of Oni Mountain, where more encounters will be found. I can check off Timber, giving me enough XP for Ekans to evolve an Arbok, and my adventure is cut short with another battle. I mop the floor with a kid who acts way edgier than he has earned any right to be, and Bellsprout evolves into Weeping Bell, and I get a glimpse of some stinky feet. I don't recognize these, because I think I would. That's when I'm told about a cultural festival happening soon, and I get an invite to go with the two people in this whole region I don't like. But, thinking it through logically, I wouldn't let the physical incarnation of the neighbor's kid and Asundere stop me from my chance of having a summer festival episode moment with Perrin. So with stars in my eyes and hundreds of hours of romance anime at my side, I walk up the steps looking for my queen. I look around all the vendors' stalls, but I can't find her anywhere. Deflated, I choose to cheer myself up by flexing on the weird kids, breaking their records in their own culture-significant festival games on my first try. And see, that reaction was worth it. Some important story stuff happens, but Perrin still hasn't shown up, so it's time to just go catch more Pokemon. I evolve a Weeping Bell into Victory Bell and catch a Grubbin to throw into the boxes after it. Mienfoo and Levani are added to my Pokedex before I trip over a shiny Mankey. Something I didn't really need, but I guess I'll take it. And no, I'm not a D-Gen who normally catches their shiny Pokemon on Quick Balls, but I had a mission to complete and this little creature didn't get me any closer. Charjabug is introduced to its family, and Graveler kicks aside one of the Geodude I caught, saving me some time and XP. Timber evolves in a Girder, bringing my total up to 30 Pokemon, and Nuzleaf follows shortly after, and just to get it done, I use a Leaf Stone to get a Shiftry. The story takes me to the crater-filled Paradise Barrens, and brings a whole swath of new encounters, including Vullaby, Sandshrew, Gligar, Nosepass, Sandslash, Jangmo-o, and Swinub evolves into Pillowswine. So after a good chunk of progress, I deal with another story battle, wiping my hands of the socially inept reverse cooties. But it was worth it because the XP allows Vullaby to evolve into Mandibuzz and Mienfoo evolve into Mienshao. But oh my god, the freaking edge emanating from this kid. I really hope I get to smear him in the Indigo Disc. Carmine and I actually start to bond by making fun of the little rat, and she invites me to one of her people's most sacred locations, at the peak of Oni Mountain. On the way, I pick up a Clefairy and stumble upon a Terra Raid Ice-type Dipplin. At this point, I didn't know how to evolve my Applin into Dipplin, so I took this chance to add the Goopy Boy to my dex. After unknowingly falling into a one-way cave, I caught a Cleffa and Pillow-Swine evolved into Mamoswine. I made my way back up top where I could catch a Slugma, Coughing, and Chingling before more story stuff happens with Carmine. And the fact that she lived this boss battle kinda makes her like the longest living Carmine after Clayton. Thanks to said boss battle, Swaddle evolves into Swadloon, embodying my very existence on the couch after work wrapped in a blanket. Dweebloner does Dweebloner things, but the ensuing battle ends up giving me enough XP to evolve Coughing into Wheezing and Jangmo-O into Hakomo-O. Now this is absolutely not the start of the climax of the DLC or anything, so I just simply continue my catching quest with Poliwag, Ducklet, Lotad, Lombre, and evolutions mark off Ludicolo and Como-O. One goofy, non-significant battle later, and Poliwag evolves into Poliwhirl, and thanks to a Water Stone, it quickly evolves into Poliwrath, and I also find a little Munchlax. Second goofy, non-significant battle later, and Slugma evolves into Macargo, and Ducklet evolves into Swanna. On my way to the third and final silly little battle, I find a Terra Lampin. Before I decide to grace the town with my presence, I go on a little detour and catch a Cramorant and the all-time GOAT Crawdaunt. The strange-looking boy finally ends up doing something good for other people, and then immediately ruins the progress by trying to start a fight with me. Bro, I don't have time for this. I have like 34 more Pokemon to catch. You're lucky I don't use my shiny Sky God to destroy your very existence in one fell swoop. Now as punishment, watch while I put a piece of your culture into a ball and take it back to my home region like the British Museum. Okay, that spiraled a little bit, but I need to fill out my freaking Pokédex. The new best legendary Pokemon Ogerpon is caught, and after a few more A-button mashing sessions and a close call for Carmine during a battle, the story is complete. Now, this is a small cutscene spoiler, but I hope so badly that we get to murk this dude in his own school in front of his own classmates. Nothing would make me happier than bringing bullying back. Anyway, now that the story is done, it's time to go for the final push. And by final push, I mean go straight to my new queen and let her make me do whatever she wants me to. We end up going to the Forest of Romance where I can find new encounters. One Pokemon Snap minigame and a boss battle later, I can add Ursaluna to the dex. Which is kinda confusing because I already had a normal Ursaluna in my boxes, but an entry is an entry. Speaking of entries, this forest contains Litwick, Hoot-Hoot, Phantump, Trevenant, Noctowl, Snorlax, and white-striped Basculin. Heading back to Musui Town, I say a temporary farewell to my future wife before I grab a Illumise and Volbeat, and head back up to the Crystal Pool for some of my last encounters and a nice background for some evolutions. These Pokemon include Duskull, Dusclops, Gliscor, Clefable, and Ninetales. It was at this point I remembered that I came across a 6-star raid for Sinistra. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Earlier in the playthrough. So in order to preserve my evolution items for any future potential shiny Pokemon, I defeat the raid and add it to my collection. Burning through some evolution stones, Chandelure, Vikavolt, and Probopass can all take their spot in the boxes. Close by, I found a Feebas Terra raid taking care of a pretty annoying encounter in a quick and painless way. This was the point I started using videos and guides to help grab the final stragglers, and I learned that Carbink could be found in this cave under the Crystal Pool. With only 13 Pokemon left, all that I'm missing are the Legendary Trio, some trade evolutions, Chimecho, a friendship evolution which is always fun, and the version exclusives from Violet. I decided to tackle the legendaries first, starting with Munkidori, followed by Okidogi, and finishing off with my favorite of the trio, Pheasantipede. This guy kinda reminds me of this dude from Bleach. After charging my long-forgotten Switch Lite, I can take care of all the trade evolutions. Well, except for one. I'm going to save a special one for later, but I can check off Golem, Politoed, Dusknoir, and Conkeldurr. With a stroke of luck, as I leave the trade screen, one of my final 5 Pokemon I need is sitting right in front of me, Chimecho, and is quickly caught to save me from a friendship evolution. Since I'm planning on saving my Violet playthrough of the DLC for a future video, I kind of end up cheating and just transferring a Morpeko and an Aipom to breed, But this isn't really that different from catching my own exclusives and trading. Now I can evolve Apom and Ambipom, leaving only one Pokemon. Milotic, one of my favorite water-type Pokemon of all time. I mean, I used to think this thing was a legendary because I could never find out how to get one in Emerald. I sacrificed one of my 2 Prism Scales and my Kitakami Pokedex is complete. This lets me talk to Jacques and get my Glimmering Charm, boosting my Terra Shard rewards from raids. For the finishing touches, I put my Living Dex in order and fill in the gaps. I forgot to check my playtime at the start of the DLC, so I don't know 100% how much time it took, but I had about 8 hours of footage, so that's a reasonable estimate. Not exactly breakneck speeds, but fast enough considering it was my first casual playthrough and I just wanted to enjoy it. Maybe someday I would consider speedrunning the entire Living Dex for both the base game and DLC, especially when the Indigo Disc comes out in a pseudo Professor Oak style video. But that'll have to wait, because I may or may not have something in the pipeline that has to do with the list of shiny Pokemon in a toilet trip, or a challenge run involving one of these guys. If any of those sound like something you'd like to see, then let me know in the comments, and please hit the like and subscribe button, and stick around. I think I'll be making some good videos for you guys. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.